Good afternoon and welcome to Salford Now. I'm Laura Burns.
And I'm Charlie Mulholland. First today, now the Queen's speech may seem quite far away from here in Salford and the reopening of Parliament. However, there is good news for those of us who are trying to get to and from work in the morning.
However, the proposal has been criticised by the Electoral Reform Society, claiming these plans will leave tens of thousands of legitimate voters voiceless.
Ollie Thorpe, our presenter, has more to say. So apologies for that, there have been some technical issues here. Now, into our next story. Now, a charity based in Warton has helped to rescue, rehabilitate and rehome over 370 ex-grey racing hounds. And we sent Ben Ibsen to find out more.
Specialise in rescuing, rehabilitating and rehoming ex-racing greyhounds of all ages.
Started off with one dog and then we've rehomed over 300.
And how many volunteers do you have come in weekly?
Weekly, I'd say 50 odd.
The Mackens volunteers assist in cleaning the kennels, feeding the dogs and taking them out on daily walks, as well as fostering the dogs as part of their rehoming process.
Raven had been in kennels for about a year. He was quite a reactive dog. He was obviously a very successful racer, so they just carried on racing him. Because he carried on winning and making the money.
The UK currently has around 15,000 greyhounds used for racing, and 1,500 of these are killed every year. A quarter are retired by their owners, and over 500 are adopted by charities and organisations such as this one.
There can be anywhere up to 19 dogs at any one time in the kennels, but you do tend to get a little bit attached to odd ones. I take them home for the weekend and that just gets used to them being in houses and gets them socialised with different environments, just away from the kennels really.
The charity relies solely on donations and fundraising events to help fund their rehoming process. The fundraising events take place every week, all year, in and around Greater Manchester.
You see them past me, my house, and I wonder where these guys hang out. So I found them on the website and found they wanted volunteers. And here I am.
We do tombola and we have a crafters group that do a lot of knitting and making a lot of things, Christmas things, knitted coats.
Now we've got 3. They're a bit addictive after a while, but I think 3 is a limit to get in the back of a Ford Focus.
Many of the dogs at the centre have been subject to neglect and abuse during their racing careers. All ex-racers have national greyhound identification numbers tattooed in their ears to identify each dog. So far, they have successfully rehomed over 370 dogs during their 5 years of existence.
The majority that come in have raced, so they either come to the end of the racing career through their age, or they've been injured, or some of them never make grade, so we get them in and they might only be 18 months, 2 years old.
Ben Ibsen, Salford Now.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
Now, the Queen's speech and the state of opening Parliament can seem a really long way from here in Salford, but there's some positive news for those of us who are trying to get to and from work in the morning.
The government used the Queen's speech to announce rail reforms, which is hoping to improve the lives of commuters in the city. Our reporter Ollie Thorpe has more.
The state opening of Parliament. A chance for the Queen to set out new plans for the government. As Her Majesty spoke in the House of Lords, there was travel disruption at Salford's train stations, with delays leaving passengers frustrated. The Queen said that her government will improve infrastructure nationwide.
My ministers will bring forward a national infrastructure strategy. This will set out a long-term vision to improve the nation's digital, transport and energy infrastructure. New legislation will help accelerate the delivery of fast, reliable and secure broadband networks to millions of homes. An aviation bill will provide for the effective and efficient management of the United Kingdom's airspace. Proposals on railway reform will be brought forward.
The decision comes after months of disruption for the people in Salford, and today people have been reacting to the news.
Well, certainly Northern Rails does need to change. so many cancellations, delays, drivers not being able to reach, the train that they're supposed to be driving, and train crew, not always of their own fault, but because of the congestion caused by other train delays.
For some, the disruption adds further stress.
It's complete disruption, to be perfectly honest. So much so that I've had to get taxis back from stations miles away from home. I only live 2 miles from a station on the Northern Line, and yet I have to get off at Wigan and get a taxi 15 to 20 quid's worth back to my house.
We asked Northern Rail for a comment, but they're yet to respond. Ollie Thorpe, Salford Now.
Also in the Queen's speech today, the government announced plans to tackle electoral fraud with the introduction of mandatory voter ID. However, the proposal has been criticised by the Electoral Reform Society, claiming these plans will leave tens of thousands of legitimate voters voiceless. Now joining us on Skype is Professor of Politics at the University of Salford, Martin Bull. So,
hello.
How do you think this proposal will affect residents in Salford?
Well, I think the danger is that those who those who currently do not vote are likely not to vote, and many of those who who come from minority backgrounds are likely not to vote as well.
So the people that
very
are coming
bad
from
feedback on this.
So, in terms of the people coming from minority backgrounds, do you think they will be able to have a say?
Well, the evidence. I mean, there was a trial done on local elections. The last local elections, there were pilot studies done in 5 areas, and the results of that were mixed. In one respect, the operation went reasonably smoothly, but in another respect, some of the evidence showed a fairly evident correlation between the proportion of black and ethnic minority voters in these areas and those not voting. So I think the concern is precisely that these measures, if rolled out nationally without very big supportive mechanisms, may end up actually suppressing voting.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Now, a group of volunteers in Swinton came together on Friday to stitch and stuff a handful of Mr. Alzheimer's mascots. Salford Inspire, part of an Age UK Salford, are sending the mascots into schools to help teach children about dementia and Alzheimer's. Josh Boyles went out to find more.
Helped with copious amounts of tea, coffee and an incredibly warm atmosphere, this group of volunteers are looking to raise awareness of dementia one stitch at a time. They're making Mr. Alzheimer's mascots. This little character acts as a tool to allow children to learn more about the effects of dementia. The Mr. Alzheimer's project is a product of Age UK Salford Inspire and aims to raise awareness of Alzheimer's and dementia in children. Thought up by Inspire member Joy Watson, the Mr. Alzheimer mascot enables children to become more familiar with the condition by asking questions.
It was born out of my concern for my 2 granddaughters. They were having problems with Nanny keep saying silly things and keep doing silly things, and they weren't able to voice their concerns. So I thought, well, if they had something that was neutral, like a toy, they could talk to the toy about, Nanny, and Nanny sometimes shouts or swears. So that's how it started. I made the toy and they took him home and they took him to bed and just chatted to him. And I thought, well, it's benefiting my 2 girls, maybe it could benefit a few other children.
We've had a lot of feedback, we've had lots of feedback from the schools and things like that. So we found that some of the schools have come back and said, I think Joe Bloggs has told us about the grandma. We didn't even know that they were living, with a family member living with dementia. So it's actually raised awareness within the school as well of how they can then support the child's well-being as well, really.
While the aim of the project is to raise awareness of the condition, the act of getting involved in arts and crafts has also helped the volunteers cope with living with dementia.
People from the Poppy Day Centre, they come and they just enjoy looking at the colours of the materials and fiddling with the material. So we try to open it up to anyone. So we try and get across that you don't have to be a sewer. You know, you can stuff the guy if you want.
Mr. Alzheimer's may be prevalent across Salford right now, but Joy has bigger plans for her project.
My dream would be that it would be rolled out nationwide. I've had conversation with the Health Secretary and I'm looking to talk to the Education Secretary with a view to having it on the curriculum maybe or something. But it's just a tool, in my view, to run forward with helping the next generation to have some dialogue about dementia and then to see how they can help.
Joshua Boyles, Salford Now.
Now imagine you won £20,000 from a bet that you made for your team to make the Rugby League playoff final and the star player to win Player of the Year. Well, that's exactly what happened to Salford's Gary Smeaton, who placed the bet back in January, but the bookmaker is not paying out at William Hill. Ellie Kemper's more.
It's a dispute that's gone viral. William Hill are refusing to pay over £23,000 to Salford Red Devils fans who placed a double bet in January. Gary Smeaton and his friend Chris Shenton placed a bet on the team to finish in the top 5 at the end of the season, and another for Jackson Hastings to be named the Super League's Man of Steel.
Expected a nice cheque going into our account of £23,400, and instead they were prepared to offer us £1,700, and it was, just not happening.
Now, Salford Red Devil fans are speaking up about the dispute.
We went into the pub before the game and people were coming up to me and saying, have you been paid out on that bet yet? And people had recognised me from the TV and people knew me anyway. It's just come out that it's literally everybody is telling us, look, there's no reason why they're not paying you out. Nobody can see that there's a reason why they're not going to pay you out.
Behind me here is the William Hill branch in Swinton where Gary Smeaton and Chris Shenton placed their bet. But William Hill are refusing to pay out the full amount, citing human error among other factors. A spokesperson for William Hill said, unfortunately, we are unable to make a statement whilst the bet goes through the IBAS process. But we would just like to reiterate that IBAS are impartial adjudicators and we will adhere to their recommendation. Now Gary believes this ordeal will change the way people view betting.
People are now questioning betting on what they actually put on that bet slip, and they're kind of going up to the counter and going, can I have this bet now? It's opened a massive can of worms, this. I'm not going to let it drop, even if I've got to stand out there with banners to say don't come into the shop and stop people going into the shop, I will.
It might not have been a victory for Red Devils at the weekend, but there is hope yet for Gary and Chris.
Now staying with sport, we have our sports correspondent Emma Gunn in the studio.
Thanks, Laura. And staying with the Salford Red Devils, last Saturday the club faced St Helens in the Super League Grand Final. Their success came as a surprise to many as they were the underdogs of the season after a poor performance last year. Here's Libby Goodman with the story of the weekend, including exclusive fan reactions and head coach Ian Watson's thoughts on the match.
On Saturday night, the Salford Red Devils took on St Helens at Old Trafford in the Rugby Super League final. Manager Ian Watson speaks in the press conference about what the game means for the club.
I think it's been amazing what they've achieved. We just spoke about the change rooms there and just said it's probably bigger than just getting to a grand final. It looks like the boys have kind of got people to kind of fall in love with their rugby team again in Salford. So on just that side, hopefully it can help to build the club from ground upwards. That's what we need to do at Salford, and build a foundation like what St Helens have got, where you can bring young kids through and you can take into a grand final and build on that, and hopefully we can keep some of the supporters that have got behind us at the back end of this year, and they can keep coming and then we can build a proper team.
The game finished 23-6 for St Helens, and although this is a loss for Salford, it seemed that the fans still had an enjoyable time.
They got to the final. Ian Watson got him here. It's outstanding. I lost for words, really. It's a shame that they've lost, but you know, it's what it is, isn't it? But I'm sure they'll be back again to carry on playing like this, and you know, Ian Watson's there. You know, so he'll carry on, and that's it.
This is Libby Goodman reporting for Salford Now.
Go on, Salford!
Now, this week is Malnutrition Awareness Week. Poor nutrition in order to cut weight is a common issue in combat sports. This has multiple implications on a fighter's mental and physical health. Owen Togger interviewed Salford MMA fighter Steph Murray about his battle with these issues.
The work rate that I put in, you know, you are allowed those treats if you train hard.
And that's all we have time for today, I'm afraid. And now you can follow us on @Salford Now on Twitter.
That's all from us here at the studio. Goodbye.
Goodbye.